Go ahead and call this special meeting of the Jacksonville City Council to order. Council, you've been provided with an agenda for tonight's meeting, and at this time I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
So motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have some special guests in our midst tonight, and I'm going to call on Mr. Bittner to introduce and say a few words.
Okay. I don't know if they have my back to the guests, but
I'll spin you around.
I'll fall over. Marshall Dodson and I go back a long ways. He was city attorney when, in fact, he recruited me for this position as city manager and led the negotiations that brought me here. I've got to say that every time I go home down Commons Drive, I can't help but think, but when I drive past the recreation center and the ball fields, go past an elementary school, a high school, and a middle school, which was made possible by the city donating 72 acres of land to the Board of Education and to the county. And then I look at the Emergency Management Center, which the city provided rent-free lease to the county. Then I look at the tennis courts and the ball fields, and I look at the site of the new fire station and the site of the new facility for partnership with children and the site for affordable housing. And I said, all this was made possible by Marshall Dodson's leadership in negotiating with Weyerhaeuser the purchase of 200 and some acres of land for the great sum of $440,000. Wow. You know, there was a guy in Washington by the name of Seward, was Secretary of State, that bought Alaska for something. Marshall ranks right up there in terms of big land swell. You know, Marshall, that land purchase has provided recreation opportunities and improved the quality of life for thousands of people. And every time I drive down that road, I say, thank God for Marshall Dodson.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you want to say a few words? I know you've been closely associated with Mr. Dodson for years.
Mr. Dodson has been my mentor for 45 plus years. He and I practiced law together after 3 years with the DA's office and started in 1980. We practiced together for 22 years. The last 5 of that, I became city attorney, 27 years. Long story short, you have sitting in this room over 50 years of city legal representation between the two of us. He's my mentor. He's been just a wonderful friend and enjoyed every minute of it. And I give God, like Mr. Bittner, thanks every day for him bringing me in touch with him and giving me that leadership. And we're just thankful he's still here with us, and thank his son, Marshall III, and his son-in-law, Jim Bonner, for escorting him out this evening, keeping him away from his wife and the chores that I know he does every day because I see him out in the yard. And he's a special asset, and he's been special to the city in so many ways. Mr. Bittner just pointed out about the Commons, but in litigation and so forth, I mean, he's just been a real asset to the city, and we're just thankful that I had a part in being his friend and his colleague.
Mayor, several years ago when I had the privilege of meeting Marshall for the first time, I asked him, I said, well, what kind of advice have you given the councils in the past? He said, oh, just good advice. He went on to say, but I really can't comment on John's advice.
You notice he didn't say that was a true story.
The city has really benefited by having such brilliant legal minds running our legal affairs here in the city of Jacksonville. Mr. Dodson, you know, when I was at the police department, I'm sure you had to handle a few little things that we did, probably, you know.
Still got my coat on. I'm looking for a job.
But thank you very much for coming and being with us tonight.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Always good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too. Great honor.
Sammy, I got one last comment. I was always wondering who to blame for bringing Jerry Bittner to Jacksonville. Now
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I got it.
Let's give him another round.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for bringing.
Thanks, everybody.
President Dawson, you take care, sir.
How you doing, partner? I remember everything.
Don't tell nobody.
Yes, sir. Played ball somewhere. Yeah, yeah, we gotta go. Thank you. Good seeing you.
Thank you for coming.
Take care.
Great man, great man. Mayor, you ready?
Go ahead and start off there, Richard, with the presentation of your budget items.
You know, first of all, I know that over the last week, y'all have really struggled. And to help you out tonight, I've tried to come up with some additional financing. I was in the grocery store the other day, and so I'm giving each of you $100 grand. Now, what you do with the $100 grand is, it's really just gonna be up to you. I know you're retiring, so.
Gotta get the big bars.
Thank you, sir.
Get the full-size bar.
Now, we have to fill out the tax forms on this one.
Well, according to Gail, any type of compensation like this is taxable. But I suggest that you enjoy the $100 grand and then decide how much tax you want to pay.
Certainly going to enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Finally, he's come across with something.
Yeah.
12 years now.
Yeah, and at the end, what am I left with? An empty bag. So, I'm going to start by going back to where we ended. Y'all are facing some difficult decisions tonight, and I want to refresh your memory on the recommendations. First recommendation had to do with JPD. Continue the step plan for PO 1s, 2s, 3s telecommunicators. Adjust the step plan by 40,000, I'm sorry, 40,000. Everybody over started applauding. I tell the lieutenant back there almost fell off his seat. By $4,000 per category. Implement at the beginning of the new fiscal year COLA adjustments for non-step and analyze annually. For fire and emergency services, go ahead and formally delete the step plan. They would become part of the general pay plan, COLA adjustments as with all other employees, and analyze annually. For the general employees, the recommendation was a 6% COLA, start at the beginning of the fiscal year, address compression with the adjustment fund, analyze annually. Add Easter as a holiday, add one floating day. Just to clarify, you probably are aware that salaried employees already get 2 floating holidays. That was implemented decades ago when compensation, or comp time as we used to call it, was no longer, I think, legal. And so the city council at a former time implemented for salaried employees 2 floating days. The general employee does not get the floating day. So this recommendation would be to add 1. Therefore, the employees would get holidays plus 1 floater, and the salaried employees would get 3 floaters. Study the concept of the city paying for the health insurance. Now, one thing, Dr. Washington, who's not with us tonight, asked the question, how much would that cost if we funded that for all employees? The answer is almost $400,000. So you can't, I would tell you, you need to put your money relative towards salaries and then look at this in future council meetings. and then, of course, analyzed annually. Remind you, you have a group of city employees, 604 people. They're funded by different funds. The general fund, where the tax dollar is, 471.6. Now, Wally Hansen swears that he's not 0.6, that he's a full person. But in the budget, he's a 0.6. Is Wally here? Okay, so only, he'll be here 0.6 of the meeting. Water and sewer fund, you can see stormwater and other. Also, you asked before about longevity. You have 116 employees who've been here 15 or more years. Those that are sitting around, if you've been here 15 or more years, raise your hand. Okay. You have 215 who have been here less than 3 years. That's a lot. I mean, for all practical purposes, you know, simple math, that says 35%. Mr. Thomas, you know how easily I did that? That was good. You also looked at the payroll breakdown, and I wanted to show you this, current vacancies. Now, this isn't as of this morning, but this is as of last Thursday, because remember last time we met was Wednesday night. Last Thursday, I asked Kimberly and her staff to pull up the current vacancies. You have 64 full-time positions that are vacant, 21 part-times, and guess what? We had 8 resignations on May the 19th. 8 resignations on May the 19th. You've seen this before. Who's your competition? It's every government and every business within driving distance of the employee's current home. At the end of the last meeting, the mayor asked if we would get some data from our competition. So the staff very quickly did what I think is excellent work, as they always do. We didn't list all of it, but here's your chief competition. Camp Lejeune. I can tell you straight up, you're not gonna be able to compete with Camp Lejeune. Wilmington, the beach cities, Leland, Greenville, Kinston, Onslow County, and others. So you've got a lot of immediate competition that's within driving distance of the employee's house.
And what that means, Richard, to clarify it, is that they do not have to sell their house and move. They can just make the commute.
Absolutely. Their children stay in the same school, their wife or spouse keeps the same job, they have the same neighbors, they're even on the same sanitation schedule without having to move. Here are your current job openings, some of them. I didn't list all of them because some of them don't really, they're kind of unique. For example, you do have an opening for a finance director. Well, not everybody's gonna have an opening for a finance director every day. You do have an opening for a city manager. Well, hopefully for most of those managers, they're not gonna have an opening every day for that either. But look at police officers. Now, Onslow County, that means the sheriff's department. Go down the list, you will see everybody, and we did not get an answer from New Hanover. So we don't actually know whether New Hanover is looking for sheriff's deputies or not. Look at telecommunicators, same thing. Look at firefighters, maintenance, streets. Every government, and not just every business. I mean, Mr. Sosa, you know how hard it is for you in the air conditioning business to find people every day. For whatever reason, we have more jobs than we have workers. I don't believe it's because we have more jobs than we have people. I'll let you decide what that just meant. Now, the current job postings, James Treadwell in HR provided me this last week. Look at the salaries and look at the number of applicants. Building maintenance supervisor, $42,000. We only have 4 applicants. That's a pretty good paying job. But guess what? If you're in the building business right now, you can make a whole lot more than $42,000. You can look at them all the way down. Let's look at our competition on salaries. Chief Tallman gave us this. You can see the salaries of Camp Lejeune, Onslow County. Now remember, Onslow County is getting into the fire business. Wilmington, Emerald Isle, we could have given you 10 others. These are the ones that really are right there. And if you will recall, we said last week, Jacksonville for starting firefighters. Now, these are not seasoned firefighters. This is, if you went to work for them today at the lowest pay, this is what they are currently paying. What about the police department? Again, these are not P3s, these are not PO3s, corporals, these are the PO1s. Look at the salaries. We're at 38,000. Most of these salaries that you see in these two have substantially changed over the last year to 2 years. I will tell you, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, your salaries were pretty competitive. They weren't at the top of the market, but they also weren't at the very bottom. Here's some of the other ones across the city. If you can find a building inspector, and we have a building inspector 3 that we've advertised now for what, Ron, 2 or 3 years, and can't find one. But you can see what we pay versus others: maintenance workers, administrative assistants, meter readers, telecommunicators. You know, we're not the lowest in every case, but we are fairly low in almost every case. This is not because you have a bad salary program. Many years ago, Ron, what, 15 years ago, the Springstead study was conducted?
2007.
Yeah. Well, that's 15 years ago. Pretty good, Mr. Thompson. You know, math again in public. You know, it's a good study. Why? Because it gave you the tools for HR to keep it up to date. It isn't as if your study is outdated. You're going to see in a minute, a lot of cities are right now hiring consultants to come in and do the study. You do not need to do that. The problem is competition has paid so much more, so much quicker. Let's do that again. They have paid so much more very quickly that we have fallen behind. Addressing compensation. You saw these the other day. One option is whatever COLA you want to give them. COLA stands obviously for cost of living adjustment. We're going to show you what your competition is giving. So one way is every city employee gets whatever percent. Another way is to have a flat number. Pick any number you want, but every employee would get the same dollar figure. And then there are all kinds of combinations of those. Many years ago, I believe 2012, there was kind of a unique thing that came up. One of the council members suggested that it be a certain percent for everybody, and everybody making less than a certain amount got a certain amount of money. It's really whatever you're comfortable with. We do know that the inflation rate is continuing to go up. I will tell you that yesterday, I went over to Carteret County and I found the cheapest gas in this whole region. It's at the foot of the Emerald Isle Bridge. Now, what's so odd about that is what? Susan Baptist will tell you, that's where normally the highest priced gas is. But what's going on over there, Susan?
Lots of traffic, lots of people.
No, that's not the right answer. There's a gas war. And you know why?
Yeah.
Because Lowe's Grocery has now opened Lowe's fuel gas station. And guess what? Their price is down. So what happened to Go Gas? Their gas came down. And what happened to the Shell station? Their gas came down. So instead of being the highest gas, after this meeting is over, get in your car, drive all the way over there. It was $4.14. Whereas across the street, is $4.34. I'm not sure the math and the economics of that would work, but you'd enjoy the drive. Okay. What's happening with cost of living? New Hanover County announced an 8.6% and a pay increase of 6.86. I can tell you, we cannot afford that. That would be great. The city of Wilmington, they have budgeted an increase of $7.5 million. They have moved the pay scale 7.5%. Now, there will not be a COLA because they've already taken care of that back in March. New Bern is still pending. Now, what we're being told, it's not official, is that Onslow County is going to be doing a 4% cost of living and a 4% adjustment. I'm not quite sure what that means. I think what it means is this, 8%. I think when you adjust everybody's salary by 4%, and then you put a 4% COLA on top of that, actually a good mathematician would tell you it results in more than 8%. Okay. Kinston, they've moved their entire pay scale 22%. And here are others that aren't necessarily your competition. It was just information that came in. You can generally see that people are giving COLAs and many are giving merit increases. Option one is, of course, a COLA, equal for everybody. And whatever percent, it has a different financial impact depending on how much money you make. Because obviously 1% of 40,000 is not the same dollar number as 1% of 80,000. What we do know is that for every 1%, the impact is over $200,000. It is not an inexpensive task that you're faced with tonight. Here are options that you have seen before. You can see what in the left-hand column, and really the reason why I focus on the left-hand column is that's property tax. I mean, bottom line is that's where you're going to get that. You can see 1, 3, 5, 6, and whatever. And I can tell you, it gets into being real money. Well, why is that? You have 604 employees, 461 of which are general fund employees. So anything you give, it covers a lot of people. And it's one thing when you go to the store and you buy one of these candy bars. One of these candy bars is 19 cents. I bought 6 of them, cost me $87. Was that the right math?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the right math?
It was.
The NC State guy agrees with me, see that? What you can also see is the difference between 6% on different salaries. Now, you can also see if you did a flat number. Why the $4,000? Go back to what we talked about with the police step. We are recommending to you that the police step move $4,000. So if you were going to do a flat increase and you're doing $4,000 for each of your police officers who are in the step plan, to me, it would seem fair to do the same. On the other hand, you can also see that that number varies as far as the percent.
You know what really bothers me when I look at this in comparison to what other cities are going to do? Despite what we do, they're moving up, and we're going to be in the same boat that we're in right this minute without doing anything.
You know, it's I guess the best way to say it, it's kind of like the baseball game that I saw the other night. It doesn't matter how many hits you get. If the other team is hitting home runs and you're hitting singles, you're getting further and further behind. But it did do my heart good to see the Boston Red Sox get further and further behind, since I'm a Yankees fan. But Mayor, you're exactly correct. You know, we're chasing something that others are also chasing. It would be different if there was a finish line that was at just like the Belmont Stakes this past weekend. There was a pole position where people started at the gate, and there was a finish line. Unfortunately, in this, the finish line continues to move. If you did a 6% COLA with the police step, you're talking about $1.7 million. And I would remind you that even though we've had revaluation did not produce new money. It certainly produced new taxes that individual homeowners have to pay depending on whether your house went up in value or stayed the same or went down. But you can see that the current budget before reval, 1 cent brought in $353,000. Today, after reval, 1 cent brings in $441,000. One of the challenges that Jacksonville has is that we're middle-class America. if you look at Emerald Isle, you look at Wilmington, you look at New Bern, you can ride up and down the street and you'll find $150,000 houses. Oh, did I say Emerald Isle? No, not gonna find that there. Maybe I meant $1.5 million houses. Their populations may be less than your population. And the number of employees they have may be less than the number you have. There's only one problem. For every house, it takes whatever number you want. 5 of our houses to equal one of theirs, 10 of our houses to equal one of theirs. Now, every community has its poverty. Every community has low-income housing. The interesting thing about Jacksonville is we don't have a large population of the poor, but we also don't have a large population of the wealthy. We are truly middle-class America. And what makes this difficult on y'all, I apologize, I don't like to use that term. What makes this difficult on the elected officials is the fact that you're dealing with a problem that can only be solved by raising taxes on people whose incomes are not significantly changing on the other end. We talked about this the other day. If your goal is what we showed a minute ago, the 6% and then the police, you need a minimum of 4 cents. Now, your current tax rate before reval is 64.2. In fairness to the public, we want to note that the after reval number is a little over 54. To cover this at a minimum, you would need to go to a little over 58. One of the challenges you're going to have is the fact this race is not over. You do this, and who knows what you're going to face next year. I mean, it's just the reality of what's happening with inflation, the reality of what's happening with the workforce. These are not good news numbers.
Plus, we don't know what kind of hit we're gonna get from the sales tax.
Thank you, Mayor, for that introduction. He and I staged that, by the way.
I haven't seen any slides, by the way.
It comes back again. Remember, you operate the general fund off of 2 buckets of money: property tax and sales tax. Property tax is like 24, 25 million, sales tax is like 16, 17 million. Unfortunately, the distribution formula drives people and rewards people to raise their taxes. And it penalizes people who don't raise their taxes. Now, we are being told that the county has come up with a proposed 6-cent increase. If we do not raise taxes, that will actually cost the city $1.2 million loss in sales tax because we didn't do anything bad. We didn't do anything that hurt anybody, but we wind up being hurt because of the state law and the formula. I will put in once again, Mr. Warden has been a proponent for at least, 12, 14 years, sir?
8 years, and well, longer than that, I guess, but yeah, okay. I'm gonna say since 2014 at least.
And that he is a proponent of what method?
Per capita.
Yep.
Although I could live with the blended method.
But I will tell you, as long as the county government has the sole right to decide the distribution, and as long as the state law is set the way it is, you're gonna be at the mercy of the county government. I don't mean that negatively, it is just a fact. This isn't about do we get along or do we not get along. At the end of the day, if you do not raise your property tax to something, you're going to lose 1.2 million. Here's the question. If you only raise it by 4 cents and they raise it by 6 cents, guess how much money you lose?
Still lose.
you're still gonna lose.
How about if they raise it to 10%, 10 cents?
Well,
They're getting on.
They're talking somewhere around 10 cents.
You know, the latest I got was they were gonna set their rate at 5 cent reduction
Right, below.
below what it is now. Not above revenue neutral, but below what it is now.
Now, Gail can run the numbers for you
Yeah.
a lot better than I can, but I will say to you, and I will say to the public, and I hope that at least 3 people out there in television land are listening to this. We have to continue to work with a state delegation to change this.
Absolutely.
You know, why would the county change? Right now, it's to their benefit, and it's also, in fairness, to the benefit of places like North Topsail. And by the way, my understanding, which is definitely hearsay, is that North Topsail isn't even going to change their tax rate, even though the revenue neutral rate is significantly lower. Well, guess what? Your 17 million sales tax is gonna be in jeopardy. So it really comes down to the recommendations. And there are no good options available that I'm aware of. So at this point, I would encourage you to decide what you want to do of your bad choices.
Well, first off, the holidays. I think one of the things that you would lose people to the county with is the holiday situation. They have about half the year off in holidays. How many have they got? 15, 16 holidays compared to what do we have?
10.
You know, I think adding those 2 holidays would be a step in the right direction. I mean, it's not a complete step, and it's not going to probably stop your bleeding, but, you know, I think those are 2 opportunities to, you know, to do something there, you know, aside from pay, that may be more of an enhancement. I wouldn't even mind seeing 2 floating holidays. We gotta do something. I mean, compensation is more than just money. I mean, money is the big deal, but,
Also way of life, that's a big thing.
yeah.
Wausau they just increased one, they're up to 12 now.
So
Oh, yeah, we have, not final, but proposal is add one.
what do y'all think about adding the two floating and one, what are you talking about, Good Friday? Or
Yes, sir.
Bring that back.
bring that
A lot of
back?
people do enjoy that day off, you know, spend time with family and do things.
What do y'all think about that?
I have no problem with that.
If I say one thing, you know, most people want Easter, everything throughout
Yeah.
the community. And then whatever, you know, if you want to use that as a floating holiday, then people can use Easter. And then whoever wants to use what other day they would like to observe, use that as a, you know, floating holiday.
Well,
And let me ask you a question too. 'cause
Well, first of all, let me ask, are you suggesting that we not designate what the holiday is, you just give floaters? Is that what you're
One
suggesting?
and two, yeah.
The difficulty with that is, you know, well, of course, police and fire are always on duty. The difficulty really comes down to sanitation. We know that every Good Friday, that the county landfill is closed. And because of that, what we do is we shift and so it's better for the employees if Good Friday, the best way to say it is this, it's better for everybody to be technically off on Good Friday. Now, the floaters can be spread throughout the year. I think so many people.
It's not hard to monetize those either, right? I mean, I know you're still talking money because of payroll. But what kind of impact would that be, you know?
Your public safety folks down here with their overtime, because, you know, they get the floating holiday or get overtime and stuff.
So they either get the overtime or they get a choice of the floating holiday, correct? Excuse me. They get the choice of the floating holiday.
In other words, taking the time off.
Yeah, if they're, y'all help me out, if you're working on the holiday, you get banked the holiday, right?
You make the hours, yes, ma'am.
So you bank the hours.
But then they're cashed out each year, at the end of each fiscal year.
If you
before
don't
roll
use
to
it.
SIP.
They're not taken, right? They can be taken anytime during the year, correct?
Yes, sir.
Comes on.
And then pertain to
And the other thing to remember though is, while some departments, when you have a floating holiday, some departments can absorb that very easily. If you have minimum shifting, if you have minimum staffing per shift, like police and fire, or like the water plant, it does impact overtime. So there is no, I like the concept, I'm not speaking against the concept. What I'm saying though is there is a financial impact for every holiday.
But is it so much that we can't absorb it easily?
I think we can absorb it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, and I understand that, but it's still, I know we still gonna work on the rest of the pay, but I think that's the greatest concern right there. I mean, quality of life is great as well.
This is just a piece of the pie right here.
Yeah.
It's a small sliver.
I
The
guess.
thing about it is to say, when somebody's making a determination whether or not they want to go to the sheriff's department, from the police department for a few $1,000s more, and all those additional holidays, maybe you could narrow that gap just a little bit, and make it.
I guess I don't know if I would wanna, I mean, I can understand. It is.
I'm not saying
it's
do
a
this in
slither.
lieu of money.
Yeah.
Well, I know that, but I'm like, okay. It's gonna be different compartments of how much money we're gonna be looking at, period. And I know it's not gonna be about holidays at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, I kind of disagree with that a little bit because when I interview people, I mean, one of the key things, obviously, minus the pay part, is what days do you get off? And that's one of the key
And that's
things.
quality of
People,
life, I get
people
it.
really are really looking at how many days off I get for this. And I mean, I think a lot of people like that structure. And I think the extra couple of days would be very beneficial. I think it's worth something investing in.
And,
Well, you're adding 2 days as it is right now, right, with this proposal?
Yes.
Two.
One Good Friday and one floater.
I think that's sufficient in my mind, to start with. These negotiations are gonna continue for another fiscal year and another fiscal year, so we don't have to do everything at once.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve a Good Friday holiday plus one floating holiday.
I'll second that.
That's fine. Everybody good with it?
Yeah.
You didn't need a vote on that, did you?
Let's go ahead and take a vote. since we have a
I'd
motion.
like to, just so we move through the budget, so each item is stand on its own.
Very good. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on this matter? This is something like, again, you can reevaluate annually. We will analyze everything else.
I'm okay with analyzing holidays annually, but I'm not sure I think when we get talking about compensation, we need to analyze more.
We'll be forecasting.
In fact, I'm gonna propose that we, at first quarter, at the end of first quarter, we get a report from HR in regarding to what our salary, what our competition is. We're gonna have to.
Totally in agreement.
I think this compensation thing is a short term, but I don't know how long a short term it's gonna be. I think the pressures are gonna be on during these
Like I said, we don't know how long
inflationary,
this
the great resignation. I think at some point it's gonna return to normal, but nobody knows when. But I don't wanna wait a year and find out we've gotten further behind. I just don't think that's prudent, so.
I'm totally agreeable with that. What does everybody else think about that?
No, I think it's good. I mean,
We need to have, we're gonna have to keep on analyzing it.
We want a quarterly report from HR.
Have to
As
provide
far as apprising us of where we sit in the market. Okay.
Need a vote?
Okay, somebody motion?
Yeah, we
We
already
already
did.
got that.
We
Vote.
just need to vote on it. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye. What's the cost, what would the cost be? I would like to know the cost of that.
We'll get that for you.
Yeah, just,
One thing that I would like for you to formally vote on tonight is recommendation number 6. As you know, the fire department tried the step plan. They did a poll. I believe that it had well over 90%. I forgot the exact number, voted that they wanted to end the step plan.
I thought.
We voted on
I thought we already did.
Well, I just want to make sure everybody's in agreement, so that
I
one.
think we
We
voted
did that a
on
couple
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think so.
Good way.
That's good. Let me ask you recommendation number 2. The plan is currently put together for all telecommunicators, PO 1s, 2s, and 3s. 3s are your corporals. that the category move $4,000. There'll still be steps, but the category itself, what that basically means is that everyone in those steps will move $4,000. The cost of that is $516,000.
And they're currently at 38, right, starting?
Yes, sir.
I'm okay with that. I think that's where we need to start. If we get an update, we may have to make some adjustments during the calendar year,
Well,
guys.
that still puts us behind.
Yeah.
I know it does.
I mean, I think we
know.
need to go to
Increase the
44. I mean, I know it's
Yeah.
money, but at the end of the day, I mean, we're still behind, we're still losing
Right.
officers left and right. Is that right, chief?
That's true.
I mean,
But that's not with any application of a COLA or anything like that, right?
If you're in the step plan, you
We're
don't
not
get.
getting a
Yeah.
COLA. We're not getting a
so
COLA.
if that's the case,
So
I mean,
we
we
got-
have to step up to be able to match that, or, I mean, you see where we're already behind on, I
Yeah, we're
mean,
behind.
42 doesn't really put us on the board.
No, it doesn't.
What, how about 5,000?
You know, it's at 43, and I mean, you're really gonna be behind anywhere
I
you
think no
go.
less than
And all those are.
45.
None of those are what's gonna happen this year, right?
I'm sorry, say
Those
that again.
numbers are. from
Right, that's
last year?
current. That's
That's
not,
current,
that's
right.
not the new fiscal year.
In most of these cases, these have been recently updated.
Okay.
New Hanover definitely put it into effect in April.
How in the world did Keston move their whole scale 22%? I thought,
Electric City,
I've been to Keston, but.
Electric City.
Yeah, They're losing
Oh,
tax
yes.
values.
Well, Mr. Benton hit it on the head. They balanced most of their budget off of their utility, correct, sir? Now, that was a former city manager, reached way back in his memory. And, of course, you know, well done, sir.
At least your memory's still pretty.
I just think if we don't go at least 5,000, we're not gonna address the problem. And I'm very fully aware that we're doing it on the back of the taxpayers. I understand that. On the other hand, I know that part of our responsibility is to make sure that the citizens, when they call 911, they have people respond. And darn it, we need to make sure that there's somebody there. I'm gonna make a motion that we increase the step plan $5,000 for the police department.
And does that include telecommunications?
I just.
What's that bump it up to? I can't.
43.
No, I mean, total,
About 650.
650.
Yeah, it still
Gonna-
puts us
You
at.
know, I'd like to talk about, and I understand that, and I'm not opposed to that, but I'd like to talk a little bit about revenue. We've got some costly proposals here, and I know we have to deal with that this year and next year. I'd like to see us deal with the revenue question too, and I'm all for raising the tax rate 6 cents.
Lowering the tax rate.
Pardon?
Lowering tax rate.
Above tax neutral. yeah.
Above tax neutral. I mean, I guess it just irritates the heck out of me that we're always playing second fiddle to the county and taking a hit on sales tax when they raise their property tax. You know, we can't afford that. We can't afford, even if they're only going 4 cents and, how much of that is the sales tax loss?
If the numbers I've got are accurate, they're going up almost 10 cents.
Well,
And that may be a major impact on sales.
so we'll still be losing some sales tax, which is our
A lot of
largest
sales.
revenue generator.
And we produce.
We need to do something with the revenue side.
Well, think of it in simple math, which is where I live. In simple math, every penny that you do not raise, that the county raises, is gonna cost you somewhere around $200,000. If they're raising it 6 cents, I mean, I'll tell you how the Clemson math got there. It's pretty simple. If 6 cents would take away from you 1.2 million, then every penny's $200,000. And that's not an exact number, but it's close enough. So if they raise 10 and you raise 6, 4 times 2 is big money.
And plus North Topsail.
And we don't know what they're gonna do yet. We've heard, well,
It's not the same,
unofficially, that they're not even gonna change their tax rate.
which is an increase
Yeah.
in terms of the distribution formula.
When they changed the distribution formula, we lost 2.4 million. Of that 2.4, Onslow County got about $1 million. North Topsail and Swansboro got the other 1.4 million, give or take. Surf City got some. Yeah, because it's not, they got some of it, but the bulk went to North Topsail and Swansboro.
You have a motion on the floor from Mr. Ward.
We have a second?
What are you saying, Bob?
I said 5,000.
5,000.
5,000 for the police.
I think it needs to be.
I think it needs to be more.
At least 6.
Well, I'll second the 5.
Well, I understand it's money, but.
I'm telling you, we're gonna be still so behind the 8 ball, it's not even.
And we're just gonna be playing catch up again.
You know, I mean, you're already talking about raising, if we do what Jerry says on the sales tax, you're talking about raising your property tax 10%. It's not gonna change the issue we got on the table, though. We're losing people. We're gonna keep on hemorrhaging
trying,
people.
they know we're trying.
And trying isn't good enough to the families that's out there, to be honest with you.
Well,
I don't think we have to raise it exactly to where they're at by any stretch of imagination, but I don't think we're gonna solve our problem, which, I think we're obligated to try to solve this problem because.
I think we're training, we're paying
Yeah,
for training as well.
Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do the 5,000 and let's see what impact that all that's had when we sit down the first 3 months in the new year. We may have to do salary adjustments again, but before we make
anything except change the property tax rate.
property tax.
So would the salaries be impacted right now or in the future?
Next year, next July.
Well, just for clarification, although we say the fiscal year begins on July 1st, which it does, the payroll year begins based upon the cycle. So it may not be July 1st, maybe July 4th or something.
I think it's the same.
I wouldn't be against starting pay increases before the fiscal year starts.
We could just meet in the middle, 5,500.
I would just go with the cycle like it is. How it
If we've
falls.
got,
Still looking at a
if we,
big
if,
deficit this year already. So
I know, but if we're losing folks, if we've got a crisis because we're losing folks, I don't know how you wait too much. I know it's only a month.
If they know it's coming, then.
Well, there's people I heard that have already left, not even wanting to wait till what we made tonight. So I mean, people are not waiting until tonight's meeting to leave, more or less, and it's just a bad situation.
Was that Slade, what was that, Slade said, May 19th? We're losing them just like that.
They were doing something before May 19th. I mean, they had
But
they had
listen,
something lined up. They were working on it before.
$5,000 is what percent raise would that be, Gil?
That's me doing math.
I'm just tired, I don't want to do it in my head.
It's about 14%, sir.
But the percents don't matter when you can go somewhere and make more. That's just the way it is.
Down 20%. I think that's a good idea though, Bob. I mean, like you say, we can reevaluate it 3 months, at the 3 month mark.
Well, I like to see it meet in the middle, 5,500. I mean, I think that would be fair to everybody. I mean, I really do. I mean, I understand it's property tax, and I get all that, but at the end of the day, they have to get compensated.
Where are we getting the money for this?
Off the taxpayers.
Well, we're gonna have to be looking at fund balance if we're not going to
That's what,
raise the rate.
Well, we can't really do recurring things in a fund balance. That's just not good.
One thing Mr. Thomas has always preached to us is this: you cannot have recurring expenses on non-recurring revenue. So the decisions, whether it's 4,000, 5,000, or any other thousand, when you make that decision, you are indirectly saying that you are going to change the revenue neutral tax rate to a higher number.
Right.
Well, I mean, in any event, we're guessing. So if we put the 5,000 out there, get some history, then we'll have something to go on. I mean, I think that's.
So we have a motion. We have a motion, a second on the 5,000. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Yeah, second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
How many is that?
Two.
All right.
You gonna take a no vote?
No vote?
I just think it needs to be a little better than 5,000.
What's a no vote?
I see two. Mr. Bittner?
You're gonna only count one.
No.
Mr.
Can't go.
Bittner's
Jerry,
right.
Jerry, how did
An
you vote?
abstention goes with the
Did you vote?
motion, right?
You're right.
What do you think?
I vote nay.
Okay.
Okay.
Nay?
Not because I'm against it. Like I said, I want to see some revenue put on the table too.
Well, 4,000, we know that if we, 4,000 plus the COLA, we're talking, at least, we're talking 4 cents.
Okay,
All
well,
right,
that's,
so if we add another 1,000, we need our finance folks to give us what impact that'll be on the, on that.
It's about
be just a number.
650,000.
I'll make a motion, we go to, what was it, 5,000 or 5,500?
Yeah.
And a 6-cent increase.
Well, I don't want to talk about, I don't want to talk about the tax rate yet, because I think we still need to talk a little bit about the health insurance.
Right, there's gonna be more to pile on there, I believe.
Okay, just to update this a second. The step plan at 4,000 was 518,000. Gail mentioned a minute ago that the step plan at 5,000 was 650,000. So if you add 650 to the 1.2 million, you're now up to 1.872 million. Remember, you have 441,000 into that is gonna be roughly a 4.5 cent tax increase.
This isn't counting what's coming out of water and sewer, though, right, for
Right,
salaries?
that doesn't,
This
they
is
take care of
just
it.
general fund.
This is just general fund.
So to cover the new number, which is 1.872, you're looking at roughly 4.5 cent tax above revenue neutral tax rate. So that'd be 58.5 generally. Of course, that motion was defeated.
Was defeated.
All right, so,
All
sir,
right, Mr. Bittner has a motion for
Bittner has a
5,500.
motion, 5,500.
I'll second that.
What about the,
And we still gonna talk about the
we're
6%.
gonna talk about the money, or the revenue part of it aside after we've reviewed, other things.
Okay,
I'm not sure 500 makes a difference, but hey, if that's what y'all are wanting to do, so.
Well, I'd like to be at 6, but I mean, obviously, y'all, I'm trying to meet in the middle. This is the way I'm looking at it, so.
All right, any other discussion on this? All those in favor of 5,500? There was a second motion.
Yes.
Okay. All opposed? Okay.
One of those was Mr. Jackson.
That's gonna raise your number then to 780,000, which is now,
Still gotta talk about COLA for the rest of the folks.
so for general math, to cover what you just said and 6%, assuming that that's where you stay, you're now at 5 cents plus or minus, very close to 5 cents above tax neutral.
What is
The
it?
nice thing
What is
about-
what is 5.5? What is 5,500? What is that? What is that on the police step plan? What's total?
It goes to 780,000 roughly.
780?
Yes, sir. Because you were at 4,000 at 518,000. You've now gone up to 5,500.
I
No,
think it's 7.
no, you're too high. It's,
You also said 712. right?
there you go.
712.
I'll buy 712.
712, 250.
I'll buy 712.
Okay.
We'll get back to your slide, Richard, some of the decision points.
I'm sorry?
The decision points that were
Yes,
working down the slide.
Remember remember 6% is roughly to the general fund is 1,222,000 plus or minus. And remember, 1 cent of tax brings in $441,000.
I'll just go ahead and make the motion for 6% COLA.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a
you know,
motion and a second, any
Second that for discussion purposes.
Yeah, just, you know, we've seen it, you know, the turnover, we just got to address it. I mean, you don't know, money's not everything, but we're trying to do some other stuff.
And the other thing is this too, I mean, if we raise the property tax or lower the property tax
Rate
down, we lower the rate down a little bit and just above revenue neutral, you know, perhaps we're staving off some of the loss of sales tax, and that could account for some of covering this.
I mean, we're still talking about raising property tax in general 10% at 6 cents. I mean, that's a 10%, you know, your total is going up 10%, so you can't expect anybody to really have a decrease. And it's just kind of unfortunate that you got to, you know, use somebody else's bad behavior to justify your own bad behavior, but that's what we've got. And now, I do want to talk about the fund balance because, you know, when is the last estimate we have for, we're still working with the 5.2 estimate for this year? Usage of fund balance, or you revised that at all, or?
We did last time, because we estimated a little more sales tax. If I had to guess, I would say we will spend under 5 for sure.
Well, I mean, you know, every year we pass a budget with a fund balance usage. But in 17, we put back 4.3. In 18, we put back 2.9. So we're setting the tax rate at what we say it's going to cost to do the job.
Right.
When we're actually we're doing the job for less. I mean, 20 it was 3.6. 2020 was 19 was 3.6. 2020 was 3.2. I mean, 2021 was miraculous when we came out with just negative 1.75. And last year, didn't we do the Jack Aniette off the hip, more or less? I mean,
Yes, we transferred the money over from general fund.
so yeah, we did a $4 million project that's generating the negative balance here. So, you know, I just don't want to see us set the tax rate and say this is what it's going to take, and then end of the year we end up, you know, banking another $4 or $5 million.
I agree.
Overcharging. That's overcharging.
I don't want egg on our council's face for raising the tax rate and then adding to the fund balance, unassigned fund balance.
Listen to what Jerry had to say here.
No, I was just gonna say that, listening to some of the financial forecasts and the gloom and doom, a lot of people think we're headed into a recession, so I hope they're wrong, but if they are correct, we're gonna be losing sales tax revenue.
But then again, inflation is adding to our sales, should be adding to our sales tax.
Yeah.
I mean, if, you know, inflation's so rampant. But I agree, there's a good prospect for downturn, although we're
sit in a bubble.
so in a bubble.
Yeah.
Only, I mean, our worst scenario is, you know, a major war.
I understand.
That's really what hurts our town's revenue. Unfortunately, I think people aren't slowing down.
No.
Spending, they're
Yeah,
adding to their debt, their own personal debt.
We've been insulated pretty well from downturns.
Oh, yeah.
And the rest of the country's having downturns because of our large military, civil service out here, and even our large employers
And the what was it, 202K buildup that came on right when everybody else was going in the tank.
Yeah.
And we were the only, it was the cleanest shirt in the laundry.
But-
And we had all those apartments built. Unfortunately, we spent 10 years without a house being built in the city limits. And so that's what kind of more scary to me is that something tips that balance. We finally got something going and we get the rug pulled out from under us there. But overall, I mean, we're doing okay. We've been pretty prudent.
One thing to remember though, once you set the tax rate, you cannot change or set a new tax rate until next year. If you're going to look at your wages every quarter, which I think is a positive thing, you have to remember, where's that money going to come from? It's going to come from your fund balance. Because the only way that you get I mean, let's say that you're into October and you're looking at the numbers, and you find that you still have to compete, that you're still not able to hire a single fireman, you're still not able to hire a single policeman, that you're still, pardon the expression, losing all over. The only place you're gonna get money is your fund balance. And the other part, I'll remind you again, fund balance is your savings. You never use your non-recurring revenue for recurring expenses. Now, and I'll give a commercial for you real quick. That's the why. Boy, that was terrible grammar. That's the reason why I've always commended y'all. You only have spent your fund balance in reality on capital projects. You've only spent your fund balance on capital projects. Jack Amyette, instead of going into debt, what you did is you loaned yourself the $5 million, or $4 million, because you got a $1 million grant. When it came to buying the $2.4 million worth of a property out for the 400 acres, you borrowed it from yourself. Also remember, when Hurricane Florence came through, you fronted $9 million of hurricane recovery. And over a 3-year period, you finally have gotten it back. But remember, it was over a 3-year period. And also remember this, come June the 1st, hurricane season starts. You've got to protect your fund balance. Now, I agree, you don't want to be rolling in fund balance and at the same time raising property taxes. But if you're going to make a decision tonight that is the final decision on compensation for the entire year, it's one thing to tap your fund balance. But if what you're gonna do is what you decided earlier, and that is every quarter you're gonna see, the only money that's gonna be there is gonna be your fund balance.
But what's the alternative? The alternative is we raise taxes, property taxes, in anticipation that we're gonna have to do something.
Yes, sir.
I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah.
I'm willing to borrow from the fund balance during that year, and if we find that we're hitting the fund balance because we've had to address wage inequities, then we can raise again if we have to. I certainly don't want to do it in anticipation.
Good point.
Because we're already in a deep hole as it is. I mean, we got to get out of being the fair playing game is the way I look at it. And or if we did the 6 and plus like a bonus structure where you dipped out of the fund balance for the bonus and then kept 6% tied to the taxes and did it that way, so you're not raising the taxes. I mean, that's kind of a thought too.
And we haven't addressed the health plan yet.
No.
Now, does this affect starting pay, or is this just the COLAs? Is that?
It affects all pay. And, you know, your policy has been in the past that the pay grade, and remember we have, I think it's 35 pay grades, maybe it's 36. There's a starting salary and there's a cap salary. So what you do, if you give 6%, then those salaries move, that range moves up 3%. So,
Say that again?
it is in your policy that whatever cost of living increase you give to the employee, that you also move the range for every job by half of that. So if you give us 6%, then you're also going to be moving that range 3%, which I would definitely recommend. Whatever you do, you gotta move that range.
For new hires.
Does that set us up to do, I know at one point we were talking about get to a $15 minimum, or will that hit us there?
It will head you in the right direction. It will not get you there.
No.
No.
And I agree with Randy, I mean, I don't think we should keep hitting taxes. I mean, I feel like we do have to dip in the fund balance to get out of this hole and then kind of readjust it down.
Well, I mean, in reality, we're just thinking aren't going to, because it hasn't occurred yet. We can set the rates, but we've got so many vacancies that we might not consume all of what you put against the salary. So, you know, like I said, we're up to, you know, last count was, you know, almost $40 million on your closing fund balance, up from 30 in 5 years. Fund, you know, that's $10 million additional. I understand. It's unassigned and, you know, the whole part, but still it's 60, what's the regular budget? 60-some million for the general fund? I mean, that's
40.
Huh?
The general fund's about 48 million.
48 million, so there you've got almost, what, 85% of your annual revenue on hand. I mean, how many of us at home have enough 85% of their expenses?
Let me go the butt way.
Okay, but
Pardon the way I said that. That didn't come out very nice, did it? Remember, almost half of that is restricted fund balance.
right, I understand, but it's still restricted for expenses we're going to incur. It's not like it's, something outside of the, we're gonna have anyway.
But
And we're in good shape, that's what I'm saying, we're in good
Yeah,
shape.
we are.
I don't think we need to raise, we don't need to go through the roof with it, but I'm still telling you, that fund balance is gonna diminish
I
because we're
appreciate
gonna
that.
lose
that
that
raise
sales
is
tax
necessary, and it
that's
helps
gonna go
sales
away.
tax multiplier,
You know,
yeah.
so, I mean, you're in a really tough
Tough
predicament
spot,
here, you know, it's just,
I mean, you said inflation's 8.5, we're talking about raising our tax rate 10%, so at least we're beating that figure, so to speak.
That's not good news, is
we're
it?
gonna have
That's a
to,
weird way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I like to look at it as we're lowering the tax rate.
Well, the rate we could, I'm talking about the money that comes out of people's pockets. We're getting 10% more money from somewhere, and so if we rate
Probably for most people, there's some.
Some will benefit.
Yeah.
primarily commercial, it seems like, this time. But anyways.
I tell you what, it's a hard decision because, it's hard to guess on something like that too. I mean, you may end up coming up short and have to go through this next year when it's not gonna be as easy to do, with the opportunity you have to get some growth out of that revenue neutral thing, going all the way back to revenue neutral.
No.
All right, I'd like to call the question.
Did I get a second? I don't know.
Yeah,
What's the
you
question?
seconded the 6%.
Wait a second, I
I
second.
thought
You made the motion.
You made it, and I second.
Second on here.
What was your motion?
For
Yeah.
the 6%
For the
COLA.
we're still stuck on that one.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion on the 6% COLA? Jackson?
You said it becomes like a 3% adjustment. Are we keeping up with the county in terms of their COLA versus their market rate adjustment?
Well,
No?
no.
And to be quite frank with you, I don't think that at this point you can afford to. They have gone so far, so fast ahead of you. I mean, let's go back and.
They're using
got your money.
one-time funds, folks. They're using that ARPA funds for pay raises.
And they're not fully staffed, so it's not like money's all the answer, you're right,
Unless they got $2.5 million of their money.
It is that, right?
Well, remember Richard said, fair. It's where you ride rides and buy cotton
Where you
candy.
buy a ticket, ride, get cotton candy.
That's right.
That's what fair is.
The question's been called.
All right, so all those in favor of the 6% COLA indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Nay.
Carries. We got 1% vote. 6:09 PM.
All right, doing good.
Making good time on it.
We have Richard till 12, so we got.
That's right.
I didn't forget what the attorney told us.
That's right.
All right, so far we've done 2 holidays,
Let's go down the list, Richard, make sure I missed
6% COLA.
Let's go back to the
Yeah, do
beginning.
number one.
We've taken care of,
500.
The
taken care of
55.
everything here on this one.
Okay. Except the analyze, instead of annually, it'd be quarterly.
The only thing I don't see up there is the health plan on your recommendations.
Coming up in just a minute.
And it's 16.
Number 16.
Study.
If an employee, let me do it, I'll erase that and start again. Whether the employee is covered with family coverage, the employee still has to pay roughly $883 a year. 26 paychecks, I think that's $36 or $32. Remember, you have well over 400 employees in that. You can do, simple math, and it'll get you about $380,000. Here's what you don't know. how many employees who are not covered at all will suddenly join because they don't have to pay that $36? Now, that's at the $2,750 deductible. That's not at the $1,750. So what I would say to you is this: if you're going to do anything on the health plan, it should be limited to providing the largest deductible. If somebody wants the $1,750 deductible, then fine, let them pay for that premium. It's kind of like going to my favorite Dairy Queen. You know, if I'm buying mediums and you want larges, fine, I'm still buying mediums.
Well, I can probably answer the question of how many would sign on. It's every individual that's not on there now, because it's free, so then you have unlimited demand. But there again, not everyone will, because we got military spouses that are already covered in it. We got Ron Massey.
Some retirees.
So I think that number is finite. I mean, I don't think there's probably that many individuals that are, maybe in the parks and the lower, echelons they're opting out for, I mean, $883 a year for insurance is about free in this day and age. I mean, that's just.
Well, you gotta
That's per
remember,
month.
it cost us, Kimberly, what, almost $8,000 a year per employee.
Yeah, it's closer to 12.
Closer to 12. I was close to 8.
So I think what you're talking about is there's two plans. There's the original plan, and then we did another plan with a higher deductible to reduce the premium. So what Dr. Woodruff is referring to is the $34 and change is the premium that our employee pays for that coverage that has the higher deductible, and it's $51 an employee for the one with the lower deductible.
That's every 2 weeks, right?
Every 2 weeks.
And the county pays us all their employees.
Correct.
I don't know that. Do you
That's
know
my
that?
understanding.
I was told that, yes.
From one of our employees that just left to go there because they got their insurance free.
Now, do we have a plan where they have to be here so long before they qualify? Because like at my business, we say you have so many years in with us, then I cover it. 50% we cover up to a couple of years, and then after a couple of years, well, correct, I understand that, but I just do it then after a couple of years, then as like a loyalty, I say I'll cover it if you're here for X amount of years. So that'll cut out someone trying to jump right on, get free healthcare while someone's been here for a while. So say you've been here for 2 years, and then 2 years and beyond, you qualify for that. And then up to 0 to 2, then you have to pay the 50% or the coverage like you normally would. That gives you an incentive to stay here, and it's not getting every person walking in the door, something that you've been here for 3 or 4 years and haven't been able to receive yet. It kind of gives them a walk, and that's how I do it, and it's kind of helped retain people and keep people, wanting to stay there with you and then not just jump ship all of a sudden. So, or get on board just because at the same time, it kind of gives you a little incentive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
A little too complicated probably for addressing right now for us.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that would help kind of the money
Yeah.
situation. Now, it wouldn't be like you said, we turn the switch on tomorrow that we covered health insurance, and all of a sudden we just encourage this because a lot of people that were uninsured are now automatically insured. Then maybe some of those people fall into that time frame. So that kind of helps on the money side and keeps people wanting to be there at the same time.
What's the period? We don't have a grace period on ours, do we? Or
Yes,
is it
we
30
do,
days?
but it's only for, I believe it's the first of the month following 3 months, 90 days, or it might be 120 days. It's the same as every other
Yeah.
local municipality. And I think, although I hear what you're saying, I think it would be a huge risk to our organization to do that because the people that then are waiting to come on are paying COBRA benefits, which are in excess of probably, for whatever plan they're on, $800 to $1,000. So I think it would be a disincentive for people to come work for us.
Well, I'm not so sure that's what Mr. Sosa meant. I think what Mr. Sosa was saying, correct me if I'm wrong, the way I interpreted it was this. Pick a number. You have to be here 3 years to get 100% coverage.
Okay.
That during the first 3 years, you get the same coverage you're currently getting.
Correct. It was just the people.
I misunderstood that.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So that's what I'm saying. So after you're here for 3 years or whatever the day, whatever it is, then you get the full coverage. And then, so you still get health insurance. I mean, you still can qualify just like you are right now. That's the way I do it. It's just after that time frame, you get it for free, and that encourages
Retention, the
retention.
retention technique, yeah.
Yeah, and it's worked for me. So, I mean, I I don't have 600 employees, but.
You got an
That's something
actuary in
you
the
feel-
house.
That's something you feel would be good for retention
Actuary.
purposes? Yes, no?
My team is watching this on TV and texting me as we go on. It's a 90-day waiting period right now.
Yeah.
I was wrong when
And
I
that's
said 90 or
normal.
120, it's 90. Thank you, Mary Dawn.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if we can do that, but I can certainly check. I'm not sure if we can do that. I don't mean the administrative
Right.
piece, I'm not sure legally.
Yeah, and I know obviously you guys follow.
If we
the
can,
rules.
certainly I think it's an opportunity for a retention piece. But again, with the, you know, there's some pluses and minuses. If we did pay for insurance, think about this. All those healthy people that don't get insurance,
Yeah.
say, why not? It doesn't cost me anything. They get on and then they help drive our costs down. Because everybody's paying into the pot, and at the end of the day,
'Cause you're
we're
not paying out for
self-insured.
it.
Right, they're paying out for it.
and they're healthy, they're,
Yeah.
you know, so if I'm not well, I definitely have to have the insurance and I'm signing up. I mean, you never know, it's a double-edged sword.
Correct. I mean, I see where Randy, I can read your face what you're thinking, but I mean, that is true about the health insurance, because if you do have more healthy people on the
Oh,
plan, it keeps
absolutely,
it
but I
down.
mean,
That's right.
if
Right.
if they're not paying
Cost down.
anything, it really doesn't add, so it's just,
Yeah.
you're paying for them, so it's just.
The company's still paying.
Yeah, if
You
you're,
can
if
lower
you're,
the average, but it's not
if you're a young
You're not
person,
like- Sure.
you're gonna gamble that you're in good health.
Mm.
The only thing you might worry about is if you wanna start a family, sometimes that can be an issue, but, she's right.
Cause I mean, I have health insurance, but I never go to the doctor, but I keep it for the what ifs and, you know, whatever the reason may be, you know, to have it down the road, but,
Mr. Sosa.
you know.
Go ahead, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing to think about is you're right, there are a lot of people that have TRICARE. And so they decline coverage, but if it is of no cost to them, they may elect it as a secondary.
Yeah.
So
That's a supplement.
there's a lot of what ifs with that.
You keep it secondary. Under TRICARE can't be your secondary.
Then we would be
TRICARE
primary.
becomes the secondary if you're offered insurance through an employer, and TRICARE becomes the secondary.
It does become secondary?
TRICARE becomes secondary, Mr. Massey is saying.
Oh, so yeah, you.
Yeah.
So they
You know, it's the same thing with Medicare.
Because usually, yeah,
Medicare's the
because
primary,
TRICARE people aren't
TRICARE's the
younger.
secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
That's the way that part.
military, so.
But, you know, the recommendation, of course, was to study it, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
good,
we,
good discussion.
you know, got some unanswered questions, so we may best
Yeah, but if.
do a little
but
more
I'm-
research on it.
Yeah, but if potential impacts is another penny, I mean, at what point what point do we say we don't have time to study it anymore in order to pass a budget?
But you can then set it so that you've got the ability to change it when you get the facts and decide which way you wanna go.
That's something you can
And you've
change
got
after the
funding
budget's set.
available.
It's a tax rate you can't change.
All right, that's what I'm saying.
So how would we cover the health insurance?
Yeah,
You'd have to take it out of your fund balance.
Take it out of fund.
But that's what goes back to the reoccurring.
Right, that's right. But I mean, it definitely needs a closer look.
Yeah.
I'll be
Well,
quite,
we're gonna have to have another meeting to pass the budget, right? What is that, June 7th, is that what we're thinking about?
it could be that day.
Can we get information back to where we can make a final decision on the health insurance on June 7th?
And leave that as
That
the
is-
only item.
Yeah, leave that the only item.
And then move to pass the budget.
Yeah.
I'm just asking, is that possible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
A little bit of research, as you recall, Dr. Washington sent an email and suggested that persons who were paid $40,000 or less should get free insurance and everybody else should pay the current rate. It's not a good idea because, number one, you've already got too many people in the organization that are treated differently because of the state legislature. A couple examples. The police separation allowance. That's just for police, that's for no one else. There's always discussion about the fire. Having one at some point in time that has not gone through as far as the legislature is concerned. You put in, I believe it's 2% for regular employees, but for the police department and 401ks, but for the police department, you're required by the state legislature to put in 5%. There are differences that are you already have among your employees. What I wanted to address, and I looked that up, Dr. Washington's concept is legally defensible. Basically, and comes from one of the School of Government employee benefits law, but it basically says that you can, and I'll read a couple things. Federal and state laws governing employer-sponsored health insurance coverage require that employers that offer such health insurance benefits do so for all similarly situated employees. Because neither federal nor state law requires local government employees to offer health insurance in the first place, employers may limit the set of employees to whom they will offer the health insurance based on a combination of factors, so long as the factors are not based on race, color, gender, religion, national origin, age, disability, or military status. So let's stop right there. What Mr. Massey has told you is that if a person signs up for insurance because it's free and they're on TRICARE, that your insurance becomes primary, TRICARE becomes secondary. So if that person has major medical issues, it's going to be your insurance going to be taking care of it because the secondary is going to pay whatever the secondary pays. So there's a real risk in my thought process there, because you can't say, well, if you're in the military and you have TRICARE available to you, you therefore cannot sign up for insurance. I don't think so. That's not what the law says. You cannot base a discrimination based upon military status. Let me read further. It says permissible factors include the number of hours per week that employees work, his or her status under the FLSA, as an exempt or non-exempt employee, the department of which the employee works, etc. And you know there is a distinction. If you're part-time employees and you don't work, I believe it's 30 hours or greater, you're not eligible for health insurance under the city plan. Okay, so we already make that distinction. And this is the final sentence. Nearly all North Carolina local government employers set a minimum number of hours that an employee must work each week to qualify for participation, but few limit the employees whom they allow to participate in their health insurance coverage in other ways. So, again, what you're doing, if you were to go down this road, you're plowing new ground, but there are risks that you would be taking as far as, especially with the TRICARE situation. But certainly it could be studied and could be brought back either.
Not to say the least of what it would do to morale on part of your employees.
But again, if you go ahead and adopt the budget on the 7th, including the tax rate, whether it's on the 7th or a subsequent date, it can be brought back even more information for you. But I wanted to point out those things to you, that there's you can do some things, but again, there's always consequences for things you do as far as ramifications.
What's the employee pay for health insurance now? Single?
34 or 51, depending on the plan.
And how much is that more than this year? It was an increase, right?
Well, it went up 1%.
1%.
1%.
That's the old number.
You know,
You
the roughly $34 is with a deductible of $2,750. The $51 is a $1,750. And again, what I would say to you is deductible. What I would say to you is, apparently the finance director is sending me something to say to you, okay? The actual number for employee only is $34.89 for the $2,750 deductible. For the $1,750 deductible is $52.32. In general numbers, if you're on the higher deductible, that's $883 a year, 26 paychecks times roughly $35. Now, what you did previous months ago when we first started the budget, you did go ahead and approve a 1% rate increase. I would say to you, you can put that on the table if you want to.
I was gonna say, why don't we eat that?
Well, here's what I would say. There's nothing wrong with eating it if you're not gonna change the plan. I think you have to be very, very careful here. The reason why we had 25% and 15% rate increases had to do with what? The cost of the plan. And we lost a ton of people. If you're going to potentially increase the number of people who are participating by covering their insurance, I know it's only 1%. You just have to be very, very careful, because I'm telling you, You look at the survey results that we got back, and you've seen them. It didn't matter if it was police, fire, or whether it was the general employee. One of the top 3 concerns that they had was that the health insurance program had gotten too expensive. I'd just be very cautious.
But I don't think that was many people with just covered themselves. It's the people that cover their families and their children that's more expensive. And for that reason, not especially for that reason, but I think you need to have some skin in the game. If you're participating in the plan, if it's free, how much are you gonna use? If you're having to bear some of the cost, then you'll be more prudent with what you do and take care of yourself. So I think detaching it completely from the employee is like you said, you could find out, whoops, it cost you a whole lot more than just that premium, because you get a whole lot more usage out of it. A whole lot more, I mean, it's going.
But still gotta pay the deductibles, they still gotta pay, when they go to the doctor, and, I mean, it's not gonna be, they're not gonna be scot-free all the way.
No, but I'm saying, if it's,
Rates based on the claims.
right, the rate's based on the claims, and if you say, well, it's free, I might as well just, keep smoking and keep eating too much, or, do what unhealthy habits. I mean, we got to get people invested.
Sometimes I go to Dairy Queen, you didn't have to look at me, we said,
That's right.
eat too much.
And, you gotta understand, a lot of people have less skin in the game.
Right.
Less skin to play the game, maybe I should say.
Well, I'm just saying, you need to know it costs. I mean, you don't need to think it's free.
I think everybody
follow
knows
that.
Everybody understands that.
But it's not, so this little bit is not gonna help that major complaint, because they're still gonna have to pay for their family.
Right,
That's where the big expense
And
comes
I think
from.
that's fair.
but that's increased too, right?
As the claims increase, of course, yeah.
No,
So that's-
I mean, just as a rate, it's increased.
Right, we have to because the claims are increased.
Are we still being proactive as far as trying to keep the rates down by keeping people out of the emergency room?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
We're very proactive when it comes to the healthcare and our expenses. We have a team, Director of Finance, Dr. Woodruff, Ron, myself, and we bring in experts to sit with us every month, and we dissect every claim and what we can do differently. So
And one of the latest things that we have done is to change so that a new drug coming on the market is not automatically available. One of the things that we can certainly tell you is that some of these drugs that you see every night on the news, they are miracle drugs, and that's wonderful. They also come with miracle prices. We have one drug this year that before we implemented that program, 4 prescriptions cost over $100,000. Remember, our stop loss is $100,000.
How much do we pay for the stop loss insurance?
Go back and look.
Is that the bulk of the coverage or what?
No.
But that rate has gone up for this next year.
Remember, we showed you early on when we were talking about health insurance, y'all asked about looking at changing our deductible. And we looked at cutting it down to $75,000 or taking it up. And what we found was the exposure for going to increase it like to 125, the exposure was so much more than what you were saving with the premium. So the recommendation was to leave it at 100,000 as long as you can get it. So.
Guess we'll keep on studying this.
Well, the other thing I'd like for you to think about is this. If you ask I believe this is a true statement, I don't know that it is. If you ask the regular employee, would you rather have $183 that you don't have to pay for health insurance, or actually have $183 a year in your wages? I think the answer is going to be, I'd rather have it in my wages. Both of them are after taxes. It's not like there's a tax advantage by, having your health insurance come out one way. The other advantage there is what? It leaves the money and the utilization of that money in the hands of the employee. Whereas the other way, it dictates that money. Now, believe me, I would love, from a marketing standpoint, to be able to have the employees, when they meet with HR or police, fire, or Michael, Susan, any other group, to be able to say, by the way, you come to work with the city, we will give you health insurance. that would be a great thing if the wages that you've seen on these slides, we were up in the top third. But you're not in the top third. So, you know, there is no crystal ball answer here. Everybody has a thought. I will tell you, if you're going to do it, I really like Mr. Sosa's suggestion. And that is you tie it to longevity. You tie it to something that encourages people to stay with you. So, you know, if you said, look, you're welcome to have health insurance, but you're gonna pay that for the first 3 years. But after 3 years, longevity reward.
Because that might help cut out, like the police department has a lot, we train these people and they leave for some reason. That might, you know, keep them through that training process or whoever. I mean, it takes some time to train an employee up to get them to where you need to be. It's not gonna do it in 30, 60 days. You know, that way when they get, because when they're usually a prime employee, it's at the 2 to 3 year mark and beyond. You know, they have really time to settle in, and then I think that'd be a good reward, you know, that way. And then that kind of,
But if the competition not requiring it, well, we haven't gained anything.
like, I mean, you're right, but you also, but that gives that gives someone there to want to stay there with you too.
We just need to study this
Yeah.
more.
Well, I mean, I guess we need to look at what the worst case scenario is. If every single person jumped on the bandwagon, I mean, what the cost would be and then breakdown. I mean, I think you're still gonna have some people that are still might not get it, but with the TRICARE thing, I didn't realize that at first either. So I mean, we just need to know worst case scenario if we offered it. We have to assume that everybody is gonna take it.
Let me ask Ron to clarify something. Ron, would you come back? First of all, you look very nice today. You got your Georgia Tech tie. No, that's an Army tie you have on there. Thought for a second those Georgia Tech colors. Clarify, if the employer offers the health care, does that mean that you are required to take it? So you could, it doesn't automatically put TRICARE in the second position. It's only if the employee takes it.
You sign up for healthcare from another source, and you have to declare that, and TRICARE becomes a secondary.
Okay, but I thought that's what you and John were saying, just wanted to make sure.
In Ron's case, he could pay $31 or $51 and have our insurance coverage, and it would be primary for him. TRICARE would be secondary. Of course, being the smart, soon-to-be interim city manager he elected that TRICARE provides him with all the medical insurance he needs, and therefore has not made that election to spend that $31 or $51.
See, in the primary payer, you know, whatever rate they set, they pay the bulk of it. And so what the secondary does is pay what the residue is, so to speak.
And nobody's gonna be TRICARE anyway, that's about the best there's out there. Also, I think something else we need to think about is you're not just talking about $34 a month, because you're already subsidizing. That's not what it really costs. You know, so if somebody signs up and they're just saving $35, how much are they really costing? I mean, what does the city pay? So, pardon me?
It's somewhere around $12,000 a year.
Okay, so you're not talking about, giving somebody, you know, if you want to save them $800, it's gonna potentially cost us $12,000. So to save them $800.
TRICARE covered dependents also.
Yeah.
We also have to look at if we cover health insurance, are we gonna cover dental and vision at the same time? Because I mean, that's separate on the policy. I mean, that costs extra. So I mean, that's another figure we need to look at, see what that's gonna cost if we're gonna do that, or that's just gonna be completely out of pocket.
I can see this blowing up
Yeah.
big time.
And it could get very expensive.
I know in college, you know, that was an elective thing there that you paid for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, if you wanted dental or, I think we went through, it's called the Mercer Group. It's, that's who did the insurance for the school.
I know Kimberly mentioned, and I think it is correct, as far as I know, that there is no charge for employees with the county. But the county has, because I have a relative that works with the county, there are specific requirements of certain things. So if you're not necessarily comparing apples to apples when you say they're getting the same thing. That, you know, their deductible may be different. You may have to go to Star Medical to start with, and then if they refer you out, I mean, there's different route. We need to find that information out for you before you say, hey, this is great or whatever. because there are certain rules and regulations that they have, I believe.
Well, I recommend we put this on hold and discuss it at June 7th with some information from staff.
Is everybody good with that?
I think it's good to have a discussion, though, to get it all out there.
Excellent, excellent.
Have we checked off the list?
Yes, sir. What we'll need to do is run these final numbers, and we'll get you something later this week that will show you that based upon the things you directed this evening. I want to go back, though, and make sure that our notes are correct. Relative to the fire department, relative to the police department, the step plan will move $5,500. That's my notes.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask just one question? I mean, we were looking at police salaries, but you also have the telecommunicators.
Yes, we got that covered.
Yeah, it's,
They're in that 6% COLA, correct?
No, sir.
they're in there.
Right now, you should
Telecommunicators are
raise
in there.
their salary $5,000.
Because the recommendation was PO 1, 2, 3, and telecommunicators, that's what we agreed upon.
And then 6% COLA, and then the holidays, Easter is gonna become a holiday again. And
Good Friday.
What did I say, Easter?
Easter, yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's usually Sunday.
It's usually on Sunday. Okay, and then also one floating holiday.
That's what we got so far.
Okay. We will send you information that based upon this, what your tax rate would need to be. And we will try to get that out to you by, today is Tuesday, today's Monday. We'll try to get this out to you by Wednesday. But your next meeting that's scheduled is June the 7th. You could have a special meeting between now and then, or June 7th. I need to ask Gail, from everything you've heard tonight, can you get the budget where they could actually adopt it, or are you gonna have to have?
Well, if we're gonna make a decision on health insurance, that'll require adjustment to the budget before we adopt it.
So I guess we need to meet before, for the health insurance part.
Well, let me ask this. It needs to be adopted by this council. The swearing in of the new council will be June the 21st. So you have some time between June 7th and June 20th. If what you're saying is that whatever you do with health insurance comes out of the fund balance and doesn't come out of the tax rate, that helps Gail with doing her balancing. Because after that, you could make that decision, and it's simply budget adjustments. The one thing you cannot change, though, is the tax rate once it is set. Did that make sense or not?
I would recommend to council that we study the health insurance issue. I'm not sure we can get all the information we need to have an analysis, but we can by the 7th. But again, the 7th is going to be a workshop for you to take that and to digest it, and you may say, I need to push that off. That can be adjusted and modified at any time. So whether you make it on the 7th or not, again, it's not important. It could be, as you said, paid out of the fund balance. What I think, Gail, and we need the council, because you actually, this is not 1 + 1 = 2. You've been given the number here of that, whatever. I think council needs to give us, that is staff, some direction as far as the tax rate, not the staff giving you what we suggest the tax rate, because this is your budget. And based upon the numbers that you've been given, I believe you need, as the elected, instead of just accepting, because we're gonna play it close to the line. I mean, again, with numbers, but again, I think you have enough information to go ahead and give some direction as far as that tax rate.
The monies that we've included in the budget, that doesn't govern the tax rate?
Yes.
I don't see us wanting to do anything over and above that. We're certainly not gonna do less. I'm not sure I understand where you're coming from.
I think as you've gone through the process, you have worked in your mind a 6% tax rate, something like that. Mr. Bitter talked about it. It's gonna be X amount. But again, if you want us to give you a This is a
I
minimal
think,
amount.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, he's talking about 6 cents above revenue neutral. So instead of being 54 point X, it's 60 point X. Is that kind of where we're thinking here?
Rather
And
than,
that- and just
rather
make
than
it-
59.9 or
Instead of
60,
59,
60.2, is that what you're saying?
Right, just go ahead and say you're raising it,
I don't see where
it's gonna
really,
make that big a difference.
That
I
was
think
my
we're gonna find out about the insurance, that it's a lot more than you thought it was.
Yeah.
Like I said, because you were first looking at just the employees' premiums, but you really are taking on.
And if we decide to go that-
Everybody's premium plus adding, the delta, so to speak, that's could blow that out of the water, pretty much.
That'd be a big number.
Yeah, way big, so.
I'd like to see the tax rate based on what we've given numbers tonight. That's our recommendation right now, with the health insurance being the unknown at this point, so.
But of course, you've got a piece in there, you're already using fund balance to balance the budget. So depending on how you set the tax rate, that changes how much fund balance you include in the budget.
How about if I suggest this? Why don't you go ahead and take a break? Let the staff have 20 minutes to try to run some numbers. Based upon, what we're seeing so far, we can come up, I think, with a generally accurate number. It won't be the final number, but at least it will give you some comfort to know where you're talking about 6%, 6 cents, 7 cents, 8 cents, whatever. Now, to me, it's pretty simple. We know what the cost was, and let me go back to a whole bunch of slides. Past one. If you did 6 cents on the COLA, we know that number is 1.2 million. And that's what you've adopted. But we know that the step plan was based upon $4,000. Therefore, the 518 is no longer the valid number.
712. That's the number you
It's
get.
712. So somebody real quickly,
Add that together.
and we can, if you want to take a quick break, we can
Yeah.
run these numbers
Yeah.
and
Let's do that, let's do that.
That'd be a good way.
somebody have a calculator over there?
That's not all.
We can eat our 100 grand.
Can we eat your candy bar while we're away? Used to do revenue neutral plus 3% for growth. Isn't that what we would always?
That's what they allow you to call it. I think
Yeah.
that might even include it.
Yeah.
1934, 340.
It's my off the cuff.
All right, y'all want to get something to eat, go ahead.
Right.
Correct, ENT.
Okay, we can pull back up the slides, please. Cubby, if you'll pull up the slide that showed the 1.2 million and the 518,000 number, please. If you remember that slide, it was assuming that the police department step plan would be $4,000. Gail has recalculated that. That 518,000 number has moved to 7,000, let's do that a third time, $712,250. The number of 1.74 million is now 1.94 for all practical purposes. So it went up roughly $200,000. Simple math, $441,000 per cent. 1 penny of tax generates 441,000. That would mean to cover this, where the 6% COLA and the step plan for police and telecommunication is fully funded by the tax increase that you're talking about. That is 4.4 cents. That would not require any money from your fund balance other than what's already in your budget to make the budget balance. Two cautions. Number one, remember, if the county goes up 6 cents and you go up 4.4, you're still gonna lose $300,000. That money will have to come from somewhere. The other part to always remember is this. If you're going to review this every quarter, that money is gonna have to come from somewhere, from your fund balance. What I recommend that you do is accept the 4.4 number and then decide what cushion, if any, you want to put in your budget. Like John was saying, you need to tell us what rate above tax neutral rate you're comfortable with.
One of the other things we'll be getting for you, that's gonna be a cost to you. That is the cost of the 2 holidays. Remember, the Good Friday and the one floating holiday for all city employees, which we don't have that figure tonight to put in there to the figure, but there's a cost. We'll get that for you. Richard, what was the revenue neutral rate?
54,
54.5.
54.5.
Say 4.4.
As we get to this point, I would like to remind the public who may not have had the time to watch all of your various rates. Water and sewer rates, because of the grants which we were able to receive from Senator Lazara and the state, as well as other money from the federal government, your water and sewer rates are not going to increase this year. Your sanitation rates are not going to increase, commercial or residential, except for the fact our dumpster rentals, all of those did go up $10, and your stormwater fee is staying at the current rate. So, pretty much a review of your budget.
What's the current rate, tax rate?
The current tax rate is 64.2.
How much? 64.2.
Yes, sir. And your revenue tax neutral rate is 54.5.
Council?
I'll bring something up. For the next meeting, I would like to discuss changing the moratorium we had on Town Center to move it from June to probably till November at least. There is new ownership there, and what they're gonna do is work on moving the residents to the safer areas as they start rebuilding. So we won't have to end up putting residents at risk of being home.
Since they have changed ownership, it makes it a whole different
Right, ball game.
circumstance now, so.
Basically saying, hey, Mr. New Owner, you still need to rehab those units. If you don't do it by a certain day, we are gonna tear them down.
Remember, that only applied to Eastwood Drive, there's a section on that, but we can certainly add that
And
on.
hopefully you're gonna be moving that.
We've been told many times when someone is exercising authority,
Right.
but the records, which is the controlling thing as far as real estate, and I didn't check it today, but I think Thursday or Wednesday of last week, it had not actually legally changed hands, but I'll be glad to check that before the June 7th day.
All right, I believe we have the direction that you'd like for us to work on to try to bring you the final numbers for the June 7th date. We will also prepare for you.
I thought we were gonna do the rate.
Yeah, we're gonna do the
I
rate.
think we're gonna do the tax rate.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to do that for Gail's
Yes.
sanity anyway. I mean, that's just, I mean, this,
So in order to do this,
we have to go 4.4 over neutral.
Right.
And usually.
So you wanna build any
54.
cushion, so.
Well, we know we're gonna have a little extra cost from overtime and cost of the holidays, from the holidays.
I mean, I'd say 5.5, just. That gives you a little bit, another 400 and some, 440.
Yeah.
440,000.
500,000.
Gives you 440,000.
It's a 60-cent tax rate for my end.
Right.
That's what you, Tom, 60 cents.
Is that way?
Want to take a motion,
I'll make a motion, make it 60.
so we're saying what now, Rick?
60,
60 cents.
Even
Get a new
60.
tax rate.
5.5 over revenue neutral. And then, you know,
All right.
best.
So the motion is from Mr. Thomas for 60 cents.
Yes.
Raise the Florida tax rate to 60 cents per $100 valuation. Is there a second?
I'll second that. I was looking for 6. I'll go for 5.5.
Any other discussion? You feel comfortable that that's a sufficient cushion there?
From historically, you know, with the fund balances, it looks bad at first, but then usually as time goes by, you've got the vacancies that are gonna offset. I mean, people can tighten up in the departments. I mean, this is just, all we control is the labor.
Well, we've been very fortunate with our management.
Yeah, well, that's
Team
true.
there that they've been able to.
Oh, that's right. We
fund
were making a steal on our general manager over the past many years.
Well, we're getting ready to have some savings.
Oh, that's right.
Salary savings.
That's a good way to look at it.
We're gonna have some salary savings.
I think you can get by. I think you can get by with that. I really do.
I don't think our department's gonna be tightened up more than they are tightened.
Well, like I said, if nobody's working there, you're saving some that way too, but we gotta get the job done.
Well, a lot of it's very dependent on what fuel costs are throughout the rest of the year. I think you budgeted how much for gasoline and diesel this time?
Not enough.
Not enough. There you go.
Diesel's concerning.
So is unleaded now.
Paid almost $5 a gallon for diesel last week.
Yeah, we're in discussion right now. Bears discussing. I got the hammer.
Who do you say?
Okay. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous.
All right, with that, I'm going to give you a standing applause for 12 years of phenomenal conservative leadership. You have really changed the face of this city. I will give you a reminder, you've now torn down 160 vacant and dilapidated structures, 20 more of which were commercial. Look at everything you built. Look at all the mowing, all the landscaping that Michael's people do. Look at all of the capital projects. Look at the fact that you have prepared yourself for 400 acres of great future over the next 20 years. And the other thing, just look around the city. The One City campaign is a tremendous success. We need to make sure we continue as one city. We have to make sure that whether I'm here or whoever else is here, that you continue your goal of respect and civility for all. With that,
Point out, I don't have a staff, but I do have folks that like me. Mr. King just sent me the town center is still in the name of CRE Town Center Apartments, since it's been in that name since 2017. Okay, and we will go ahead and put an agenda item on, but we'll see what happens between now and June the 7th. Again,
So they haven't closed on it.
it's never been closed. So I don't know what the deal is or how comfortable council is going to feel as far as making modifications to that date when the legal ownership still remains. Yeah, I mean, Brian says no change yet, so, you know, I'm on the same page. But anyway, we will find out, we'll put it on y'all can have an agenda, and we'll have you up to date on June the 7th, who the new owner, if there is a new owner, who the old owner is, so you can make that decision based upon that knowledge, because I think that would be very important.
Wonder why, I'm just, something to this, it hadn't felt right.
So if you get, well, even though they're planning on remodeling for what, $35,000 a year?
37.
37.5, yeah, like, you just can't do that, not to what those things need to be done. But anyways, that's a different day.
Motion to adjourn?
I want to say one more
Okay.
thing, and I don't care whether he gets upset with me
All
or
right,
not.
You have the.
I got the hammer. Yeah, I got the hammer. Richard, thank you for those 12 years.
Thank you. Thank you.
You made this city a better place.
Yeah, we've come
Yes,
a
he
long way
has.
under your guidance, thank you.
Now you can make your motion.
All right. All right.
All in favor?